Hi, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be making a vegan, gluten-free vegetable pot pie. I know, delicious. We're going to start actually making the broth and the filling first because there's going to be a separate video where you need to learn how to make our vegan, gluten-free pie crust. So we'll do this first and then we're going to jump over to another video to make the pie crust. Okay, you're going to start with a sauce pot here. And I've been using the Pacific Foods 32-ounce container of vegetable stock. It's got like really a nice flavor to it and a ton of veggies in there. So what we're going to do is you can use really any vegetable stock you want. If you don't want it to be vegan, you can also use anything you want, chicken stock. So we're going to put all this in there and we're going to put this on a simmer because this is what's going to be making the liquid for our pot pie. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this pot and we're going to put it on our burner over here with some rosemary, some thyme, 3 or 4 sprigs each. And we're gonna put these garlic cloves are a little bit small, so usually it's like 2 or 3 big ones, but I'm gonna put about 4 or 5 small ones. So we're gonna put all that in the pot, and we're gonna put that on, like medium high or so until it comes to a simmer, and we wanna reduce that by half. So at the end, we want this to be 2 cups of liquid. Okay, next up, we're gonna start working on our vegetables. So right down here, I have all the vegetables that we're gonna be making. I have celery root, parsnips, carrots, butternut squash, onions, sweet potato, regular potato, portobello mushrooms, some more garlic, and fresh chopped parsley. So the best thing to do first is I'm gonna start with the onions and the garlic because once this is done, we're gonna saute those down. So you want those vegetables to be done first. So we're gonna grab our bowl here. We're gonna take 2 onions, 1 onion cut in half, excuse me. And then we're just gonna cut this. You don't have to go crazy cutting it super small because you're gonna be cooking this down for a long time. All right, you're gonna put all those into a bowl. And you're gonna take a few cloves of garlic. All this will be in a recipe in the description. And sometimes when you buy these vegetables, they're just bigger or smaller. So if you have a little bit of extra vegetables, a little extra filling, you can just eat it on the side if it doesn't fit into your pot pie. It's so delicious on its own. So we're gonna take a few garlic cloves here, and you can just, dice these up. You can mince them. If you have like garlic at your house, that's just in a jar, you can use that too. That is not what I use, but you can use whatever you're more comfortable using. Not everybody wants to chop up garlic. All right, so we're gonna set that aside there. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna chop up all of our other root veggies and put them in a bowl. So we'll start with the carrots. And I'll move this over so you can see better. You want the vegetables to be about a medium dice. So like a small dice would be something like that size. You don't want that because you don't want these to get mushy. So I would do a little bit bigger of a dice on these. And if the carrot is super small like this one, you don't even have to cut that one in half. All right, next we're gonna go with a parsnip. These parsnips were huge, so I already had one cut in half. I cut the parsnips just a little bit smaller because I feel like they take a little bit longer to cook. And since we're baking all of these vegetables together, I want them to cook at the same time. I don't want you to have to use 16 different pans. Okay, after that, we're gonna do the celery root. I don't know if you've ever had celery root. It has a nice, mild celery flavor, but it's a super yummy roasted, when you roast it up as a root vegetable, it's super delicious. This can also be a medium size. This one was nice and soft. Sometimes they're a little bit more rigid, so just feel it out. If you feel like it has a nice soft texture, you can cut it a little bit bigger. Okay, we're gonna be doing our butternut squash. Butternut squash cooks up very quickly, so I'm cutting that a little bit bigger. All right, you're doing great. Only 2 more veggies to go for this mix. And if you look over here, our liquid is just about to come to a simmer. And pretty soon it's gonna boil. We're gonna turn it down a little bit, and then it'll reduce by half. All right, we've got our sweet potato. You can cut that about the same size as the carrots. And finally in this mix is going to be just 1 potato. So I have already obviously peeled everything ahead of time just to make this go a little bit quicker. But you obviously don't want to peel your potatoes any earlier than you want to use them because they will start to oxidize. All right, these are going to get diced up the same as the sweet potato. Okay. So as you look in there, some of them are diced a little bit smaller, like I said, and some are bigger. So next we're going to be taking 2 tablespoons. I'm using avocado oil here. You can certainly use olive oil. It's really just what you have at your house. A really yummy, rich olive oil would be nice. I wouldn't use butter or vegan butter for this. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt. You don't have to go crazy because all the other stuff is going to be mixed pretty well with salt and pepper. So you can certainly toss them. You can use a glove, you can use a spatula, whatever you feel like doing. You just want to coat them with the oil and the salt and pepper. If you lose a piece, it does not matter. All right. Next, we're going to take this mix and we're going to put it on a sheet pan. With a piece of parchment. You don't have to put parchment on yours, but you just want to make sure, I don't want to do a ton of cleanup, so it does help with that. Just keep them nice and tight. The further out you go on the sheet pan, those will get more crispy. So just keep them in one single layer, but not too far out. All right, these are going to go in the oven, in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. All right, we'll see you soon. Okay, so our broth is all set. It's been simmering for just about 3 or 4 minutes. As you can see, it's got a little bit of foam on the top. It has reduced a little bit. You mostly just are trying to intensify the flavor. When you reduce down anything, it just makes the flavor a little bit more intense. And that's what we want because since we don't have any animal products in this, we gotta get all the flavor we can from the vegetables and the herbs and garlic. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna strain that out. So you just can pour it over any sort of strainer that you have. Because we are done with those herbs and that. We'll just set this aside for just a moment. We're gonna use that shortly. Okay. Next up, we're gonna be taking another pan here, and we're gonna be using, I love this butter so much, this plant-based butter, unsalted Miyoko's butter, I think has the best butter flavor. So this one, what we're gonna do is we're taking 2 ounces of that, and we're gonna put it in this saucepan. Okay. And then we're gonna go back to the burner, and this burner here, I don't think cooks as quickly as maybe your one at home, so I'm gonna put it on high here. At home, if yours heats up pretty quickly, put it on medium high or so. We're gonna be sauteing the onions and garlic that we diced up before, and then I'm gonna show you what we do with these 2 big portobello mushrooms. So while that's heating up, we're gonna take our 2 mushrooms. You can also use smaller, baby bellas if you want. These just were on sale, so I grabbed these. So you take the stem out, you just push it to the side and it comes out pretty easily. And a little trick on portobello mushrooms is, I like to use these because they have a meatiness to them. I'm not sure if you've ever gone to a restaurant and gotten a portobello steak, as they call it. It has a very savory, meaty flavor to it. So I use these for that. But I don't use any of the sort of rib underneath. I think it just makes it too brown, and I don't think it's adding any additional flavor. So you just take a spoon, and if you see they all go this way, so that's with the grain, and this is against the grain, you go against the grain. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna scrape all of this off. If you go with the grain, you're not gonna get any of it off. So we're gonna go that way and just put that, we're gonna put all that in our compost, and then we're gonna do the same for this one. It's not that you can't eat it, it's completely edible. I just don't think it adds anything to the dish. All right, so as you can see here, we're starting to get a little bit hot in our saute pan. And as soon as that butter's melted, we're gonna move the onions and garlic in there to start cooking and then put the mushrooms in. Okay, we've got another minute till that's gonna be ready. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut these up pretty small. So I'm gonna slice this way first. And then give them one slice the long way. Mushrooms cook down a ton. They have a lot of moisture in them. They also act like a sponge. So you really don't want to, I don't want to leave them too big because I think they're just not going to add anything to the dish. They're really just there to give it more of a savory flavor. They're not really anything that we're looking to taste a ton of them. Okay, we're going to go back to our burner because it's melted. And you can just do this at the same time. You could do it all ahead of time, whatever you want to do. But these are going to take a minute. All right. I'm going to turn that down to about 6 on our burner, probably about medium on yours. And we're just going to use that same bowl and put our mushrooms in there because it's all going together. I'm going to stop and give these onions a nice stir. They're starting to get translucent, which is good. I don't feel that with the vegan butter they get as caramelized as if you were using a regular butter because that has all the milk solids and that's what helps you get that nice caramel color. So we're just going to cut up the rest of these mushrooms. And then those are going to go in with the onions and a little bit of salt and pepper. And we're just going to cook them down until they're nice and soft. Okay, so that's our mushrooms. I'm going to go in here. You always want to salt mushrooms pretty heavily actually because the salt helps to pull the moisture out of the mushroom. You don't want to water down your whole dish. So we're going to a little salt and pepper. All right, and we're just going to cook this down until the mushrooms are completely cooked. So we'll see you back in a few minutes. Welcome back. As you can see behind the steam, we're just about done here. The mushrooms are all cooked down. They're nice. The onions are super translucent, which means they're nice and soft. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put right here 2 ounces of our gluten-free flour blend. We do have that recipe, I believe, on one of our other recipes, maybe the focaccia recipe, but I can also put it in the show notes. This is our blend, which is white rice flour, brown rice flour, tapioca starch, and potato starch. So we're going to put 2 ounces of that. We have the 2 ounces of butter in there, and this is going to make a roux. A roux is just usually flour that you cook down, and when you add liquid to it and bring it up to a boil, it will thicken your liquid. So since this is gluten-free, we're obviously not using regular flour. So we're going to mix this together, and then we're going to turn the heat down just a little bit. You don't want to just mix roux in and then add the liquid right away. You want to toast the flour a little bit, or else you're going to get that, you're going to taste like, it's going to taste like flour. This is going to taste kind of toasty and buttery. So just give it a second here. It'll look kind of weird to you, like it'll look sort of chunky and not super appetizing. That is what you're looking for. It will stick a little bit to the bottom. Don't be alarmed, just don't keep it on high heat, but make sure you keep stirring it. And once you can sort of smell it, but once you see that it's sticking a little bit more, that means that's starting to get toasted to the bottom. We are going to take our liquid that we reduced down before, which is right here, and we're going to pour that in, and that will pull up anything that's stuck to the bottom of the pan. That is the magic of the liquid. All right, so let's crank that up to about medium-high. And what I do is I start to pull some of the flour from the bottom and slowly start to stir this. You do not want to walk away from this because you don't want the center to get too thick and stick to the bottom. You just want to keep lightly stirring it. If it wasn't so chunky in there, if it was just liquid and roux, I would be using a whisk right now to make sure that it's not lumpy. But since there's so many onions and mushrooms in there, it's going to get all stuck in the whisk. So we'll just lightly do it with the spatula. It's totally fine. And as you can see, I'm going to have the cameraman look over here. Our vegetables have come out of the oven in the same time. So if you look, a couple of them got a little bit roasty toasty, which is fine. But these are nice and soft and ready to go into our pot pie. All right. All right, so as you can see in the pot, you can see how it's getting nice and thick. It will thicken, at least on our burner. It's going to thicken from the center first because this one is not a super consistent burner. But see how it's all coming together like that? And once it starts to simmer, we're gonna add in our final ingredients. To make it nice and creamy, we are using this Sown organic oat creamer, which is unsweetened. You can use really any non-dairy milk that you want. I use the creamer because it's much thicker, so it kind of resembles heavy cream, is what I would put in pot pie. All right, so let's turn the burner down a little bit. We're gonna add in our oat milk. This oat milk is delicious, super creamy. And then we have about a 1/4 cup of chopped parsley, which I've already pre-chopped for you. And we're just gonna mix this together again. Since you have salt and peppered your veggies, you've salt and peppered the mushrooms and onions, what I'm gonna do at the end is you just take a little spoonful of it and try it and just season it to your liking. I tend to like things a little bit saltier than some people, but. All right, so do you see how thick that is? I don't know if you've all ever made pot pie, but if you make traditional pot pie, this is sort of the same method. You make a roux, you add in your chicken stock and your chicken or turkey, whatever you're making, and you wanna get this nice and thick, like even thicker than gravy. Okay, so let's bring that up just to make sure that we see a simmer in there. I'm gonna grab a spoon because I just wanna make sure. The only spoon I could find is this teaspoon. That'll work. It is delicious, but it needs some salt. All right, so we're gonna turn this off because we don't need it cooking any longer. We're just gonna add a little salt and pepper to this. Not much, it's pretty delicious. I add salt and pepper to everything on earth. Okay, give this one more stir, make sure that's all mixed in. I wish you could smell this, so yummy. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this aside just to cool for a few moments, and then we're gonna grab our pie dough and put the rest together. Hi, welcome back. All right, we've taken our mix with the mushrooms and onions and oat milk, and we've just put it in a bowl. It is slightly cooled to the touch. I never wanna put super hot liquid right into the pie crust because it will make our pie crust get warm right away, and we don't want that to happen until it gets in the oven. So we've cooled this slightly. We've also cooled our veggies, and we are just going to put those in the bowl. Now, I've made this a handful of times, and there's always gonna be a little of the filling left over. Some people have bigger pie crust than we have. So like if you have a 12-inch or a 10-inch, ours is 9-inch, so you can't get as much filling. So we're gonna have a little of this filling left over. No one's mad at that because there's about 80 people at the bakery that will eat this. So, all right, so we've got that all in there. We're just gonna give it a nice stir. Just wanna coat all the vegetables. It's exactly what you want it to look like. It's perfectly thickened. Tastes incredible. All right, now this is gonna go into our pie shell. So right here, I've breaded our pie shell. It has been in the refrigerator. And if you go onto one of our other YouTube videos, there is a vegan gluten-free pie dough video that you should be watching. You can certainly buy your own pie dough, but if you wanna make ours that is vegan and gluten-free, that's what we have here. So we have a bottom, and then we're gonna put the top on after. All right, so I always put a pot pie that I'm putting in the oven on a sheet pan, just in case, you know, you put too much filling or it cooks over the top, then you don't have to clean up the mess in your oven. All right, so we're gonna start scooping this filling in there. And like I said, there is a chance you're gonna have more. That's totally fine. Just eat it with a spoon when you're done. Our oven has been on 400 the whole time. It's been on 400 to cook these vegetables, and we're also gonna cook this pot pie at 400. All right, so you wanna just nicely spread it out towards the edges. All right, probably gonna go one more scoop. I like to always put too much with everything, but I think that's probably gonna be sufficient. Okay, so like I said, see there's like this much filling left over. You could certainly just eat this. You could put it over rice or really anything, pasta, or just eat it right out of the bowl. Okay, so this is nice and full. We have rolled out our top crust. So it's rolled out between plastic wrap. So I'm gonna take one of the pieces of plastic off. And I'm just going to take my hand here and try to lay it over as close as we can to the edges. And you're gonna take the plastic off there. Okay, and now what you're gonna do is, without getting your hands too warm and heating up the pie crust, you're gonna combine the crust that's already there and the top crust. You want them to be one unit. And if you look at our pie crust video that we made, sometimes there's gonna be more crust on one side, sometimes there's just a little bit of extra crust. You can certainly, if you have extra or you don't want a top crust on some things, you don't have to have one. But with a pot pie, you kind of have to have one. All right, so we're just gonna squeeze all that together. It does look a little bit crumbly. That is normal. That is exactly what this is supposed to look like. Do not be alarmed. It comes right back together. Just the nature of this dough. So once you sort of get it all put together here, this is when I go through. I really want to make sure it's sealed. I just don't want everything oozing out the side. Nice and tight. Also make a nice pie shaped out of this. Okay, and then we're going to go through and just do a little bit of pinching. It's a little hard with the filling because you don't want to pop the top of the filling here. So I just will push my fingers down on each side, just to make it a little decorative. You also do not have to do this at all. This is really just to make it look nice, but it's not going to affect anything. Not going to make it cook better. Okay, and once this is all pinched, we have our oven preheated. We're going to go in the oven at 400 degrees, and we're going to start with 20 minutes, and then I rotate everything in our ovens. So we're going to put it on for 20 minutes, and then we're probably going to rotate the pan so it cooks consistently. And then we do about 15, 20 more minutes. You just want this whole thing to be golden brown, and you want the edges here, you want to make sure they're cooked and that the bottom crust is cooked. So it's going to take between 35 and 45 minutes. I am going to take my knife here though before we go in, right before we go in, and just score the top a little bit. That just will allow a little bit of the steam from the center to come out the top if needed. All right, we're going in the oven. We'll see you when it's done. Hi, all right, we're at the finale here. The pot pie is beautifully cooked. It is nice and golden brown on top and crisp on the outside. It is boiling hot right now, so we're not gonna eat any. This one's gonna go to our staff tomorrow. And it baked for 35 minutes, but certainly bake it more or less in your own oven for your own liking. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. We wanna keep doing these, and we hope that you like it as well. Have a great day.